What's going on, guys? Welcome back to YGO Podcast. Thank you guys for coming back again for another deck profile. I got something special for you whipped up here today, and I've got some S Force. S Force is one of those decks that never really gets any love. Currently has a Link 1 coming out sometime in the near future that is in the name of S Force Night Chase or Night Chaser. Extremely useful for this deck as it is missing quite a bit in order for it to function pretty well. But I've built the deck in a way that makes sense to me and in a way that makes it play in a more competitive fashion. So if you like seeing that kind of stuff, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for the channel to see some more. So without further ado, let's just go over a couple of the cards really fast and the theme of the deck. So the theme of S Force is essentially in any meta strategy, it is a lockdown strategy. So it works very slow. Sometimes you can combo off and do a couple things, but its main trope, I guess you could say, is to lock your opponent into very little resources, shutting down monster effects, popping their monsters, doing all kinds of other things that your opponent will annoy your opponent and keep stunning your opponent's plays. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile, and yeah, smash that like button. So let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. So we're going to start off with 3 S Force Rappa Chiyomaru. So Rappa Chiyomaru is a warrior, level 2. And essentially what she does is she has kind of a convoluted, complicated effect. I mean, when you read it, it'll make sense to you. But what she does is that she has a quick effect while she's on the field. And what she does is that she can bounce herself back to the hand, banish an S-Force monster from your hand, and I believe that can include herself. I don't know if, I believe that can also include herself. And then what she can do is special summon an S-Force monster from your deck. So she kind of she's your play starter. You always want to see Rappa Chiyomaru because she is essentially a free S-Force monster out of your deck. And yeah, and when she goes to the banish zone, you can kind of recycle her and do some other kind of crazy combos. So you're going to play, in addition to S-Force Chiyomaru, you're going to play 3 S-Force Gravitino. Gravitino on normal or special summon, he is going to search you 1 S-Force card. And then also, if he is in a column, any monsters that are in your opponent's columns that share a same column with the S-Force monster, if they are removed from the field in any type of way, they are banished instead. So he locks your opponent down, also searches. Not too bad of a card. And then you're going to run 2 of your S-Force retroactive. And I'm going to go ahead and read this effect just because it probably might be a little bit better, a little bit easier to understand if I read it. So it says if a monster you control would be used as link material for an S-Force monster, this card in your hand can also be used as material. During the main phase, quick effect, you can return this card to the hand, and if you do, special summon 1 level 2 or higher S-Force monster from your hand. If an S-Force monster you control would banish a card from your hand to activate its effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So as you can see, this in your hand plus Rappa Chiyomaru equals more uses for Rappa Chiyomaru's effect. I'm sorry, this in your graveyard, Chiyomaru's effect on the field to send herself back to the hand means that you can consistently activate 5 of her effects. I think 2 is a good number just because I don't really think that it's warranted to play 3. It's got a great effect, mind you, and I do believe that once Night Chase comes out, S-Force Night Chaser comes out, I do think that you can probably up the count just a little bit more, or you can down it to 1, whichever kind of fits your need. So then you're going to be running 2 S-Force Lapswell. And Lapswell, essentially what he does is he blows up monsters in the same column as he blows up your opponent's monsters in the same column as your S-Force monsters, but he has another effect, and let me go ahead and read that. It says it says if this card is special summon, you can target one S-Force monster in your graveyard, except S-Force Lapswell, special summon it. You can banish one S-Force card from your hand, destroy all of your opponent's monsters in the same column as your S-Force monsters, right? And then it's a hard ones. So you can see that the S-Force monsters are kind of everywhere with their effects. Some special summons, some search. One bounces to the hand, and specials from the deck. So you know, it's kind of this has always been a problem with the archetype. So it's just something you're just gonna have to work with. Yeah, so then you're going to be running one of your S-Force Platina. So essentially, if she S-Force monsters that are, or monsters that your opponent has that are in the same column as S-Force monsters, they lose 600 attack, which actually is quite a big number. Then not only that, is when she is special summon, I believe. Hold on, let me see if it's normal or special. I believe it is. Yep, if this card is normal or special. Then she can target one of your banished S-Force monsters and special summon it. So technically she is supposed to kind of work in conjunction with Chiyomaru, as you would banish a monster from your hand. It could be Rappa or another S-Force monster. Then you would special Platina from the deck. Then Platina would target that banished monster, special summon that banished monster, and then the effect kind of goes in a certain type of loop like that. So yeah, so the next card you're going to be running is one S-Force Dog Tag. Dog Tag in itself is a pretty interesting card. I do like its effect a lot more, just based off the fact that it's more of a lockdown type of strategy here that Dog Tag kind of enables. And also its effect states that during your main phase, your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters in the same column as one of your S-Force monsters. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster while you control an S-Force monster, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. So that's one of the... I like the fact that Dog Tag can special summon himself. So, and then also he locks down your opponent's monsters effect. I really do think that Dog Tag is a really good card, just in my opinion. Then you're going to run one S-Force Aurifist. And Aurifist is kind of like a... he's kind of just a level 4. That's really what he is. Essentially what he does is that if your opponent, I believe he can pop a monster in the same column. Let me go ahead and read, just so that way I don't give you any misinformation. It says your opponent cannot target any of their monsters in the same column as one of your S-Force monsters. Okay, so if your opponent, I guess, is trying to equip their own monster with something, I mean, I guess that would be, you know, one form of targeting. Or if they have like a Boral sword, they can't change one of their monsters to defense position, whatever the case may be. It's not a very useful effect. Then it says when a monster your opponent controls activate its effect, quick effect, you can banish one S-Force card from your hand, destroy that monster. So it doesn't even negate the effect. It just kind of pops a monster in response. So it's kind of like a trigger effect, or it is a trigger effect. You really just need him for the level. He really does not do you any good as far in terms of, you know, that. Just because he kind of conflicts with Dog Tag. I don't understand some of the thought behind creating this deck. It's like 3 different teams worked on this whole deck. I mean, the art is all different. They're not even like the same types of monsters. One looks like an alien from outer space. Another's a cowboy. It's very odd the way the archetype is made. And then he conflicts with Dog Tag. Dog Tag says your opponent can't activate monster effects, but then he says when your opponent does activate. So it's very strange. Like they never seem to thought this through, I think. Then you're going to be running one S-Force Edge Razor. Now, Edge Razor, in my opinion, this one was released a little bit later than the rest of the S-Force cards. And this card actually is pretty decent, all things considered. When he's normal or special summon, he can special summon a S-Force monster from your hand. And also, he creates a lockdown effect for monsters that share a column with S-Force monsters. And that is, let's read it. Those monsters cannot be used for a link summon of a link 3 or higher monster. So your opponent really can only make link 2 or lower while he's face up on the field. And also if your monsters share a column with an S-Force monster, which makes it a very interesting type of lockdown effect. I mean, him and Dog Tag and then Platina, and it kind of makes a interesting lock, and then also Gravitino. So not only that, your opponent can't activate monster effects. Your opponent won't be able to activate monster effects with Dog Tag. They decrease by 600, right? They can't make a link 3 or higher, and also their monsters get banished when they leave the field. So it makes for an interesting lockdown strategy. These other ones are just kind of to help you kind of keep things going. So we're going to move on to the spells. So you're going to be running 3 S-Force Bridgehead. So this is the field spell for the deck. On activation, it's going to allow you to search an S-Force card, I believe, either S-Force card or monster. Yes, S-Force monster from your deck to your hand. It says when an opponent's monster declares an attack on your S-Force monster in its same column, you can activate this effect. It says that monster you control cannot be destroyed by that battle. You can only use the effect of S-Force Bridgehead once per turn. So besides the fact that it's just a Rhoda, S-Force Bridgehead really doesn't do anything, and it's very easy for your opponent to walk into something, right? If you have a monster here and your opponent has a monster here, and then they're trying to attack, they're gonna easily avoid the fact that, oh well, I'm just not gonna attack the monster in the same column. Why? So it kind of does not help out you. You use it more for a reinforcement of the army. So then you're going to be running two of the S-Force Showdown. And S-Force Showdown kind of reminds me of like, what is it? Sprite Smashers. It has kind of like 2 effects. And it's also a quick play spell, which I think is very interesting. One of the effects is that you can special summon S-Force monster from your hand in defense position. And then the second effect is you can target one S-Force monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So it's kind of like a Sprite Smasher, a definitely Sprite Smasher at home-esque type deal here. So yeah, not too great. Now, I can say one thing. This trap card, so S-Force Chase is actually pretty decent. So S-Force Chase, what it states, roughly what it states, it says you can target face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of S-Force monsters you control with different names. And now it says target face-up cards. So that's monsters, spells, and traps, guys. And then return them to your opponent's hand, depending on how many S-Force monsters you have or you control with different names. And then it says if an S-Force monster you control would banish a card from your hand to activate the effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So and then you can only use each of their effects once per turn, right? So this essentially acts like a retroactive as well while it's in the grave, which also helps out your S-Force strategy. And then to round off the rest of your S-Force strategy, or your last very card for your S-Force in your main deck, is going to be your S-Force Specimen. So S-Force Specimen, its effect states that if your opponent controls a monster, target one of your S-Force monsters that is banished, or in your graveyard, special summon it to your field in the same column as an opponent's monster. You can banish that card. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target one S-Force monster you control, move that target to another main monster zone. Right? You can only use each once per turn. So this kind of facilitates like an extra lockdown. Like let's say you can special summon a Dog Tag to, another zone or whatever the case may be. So or even bring out Edge Razor. Okay, they're gonna go for a link play, a link 3 at least, and you can bring out Edge Razor, and it's like, hey, only two and above, right, for you. So yeah, that's pretty good. So this is going to be your main deck. Let's move on to some extras. Not the extra deck, but just some extras. So, one thing that I noticed that's very popular this format is kaijus. And I'm going to say this. There, as far as I can tell, most people that I know of have not played kaijus in this deck whatsoever. Why, I do not understand, but kaijus allow you to take a monster out of your opponent's zone that may not share an S-Force monster, right? Or the column that they may not share an S-Force monster with. Then you can place that monster, your kaiju, into a column where your S-Force monsters are. So essentially, you're getting rid of, like, let's say a threat, because let's say you're getting rid of a threat, then you're replacing it with a monster that they can't use because it's being locked down by an effect. Also, it helps out if you have Gravitino on the field. You can kaiju something and it's banished. It's not coming back. So I thought that that was a pretty good strategy to use, besides the fact that kaijus are really seeing a lot of hype this format. So I really do think that they are a good addition to this deck. Then you're going to be running 3 Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is fairly standard for this format, I believe. You're going to be running 3, I'm pretty sure you saw it coming, 3 Nib. So Nib, I'm pretty sure you've seen this coming. Nib is just kind of standard this format as well. I do believe that there are other strategies that this doesn't work against. You really want to side your nibs out if you're playing against a strategy that this does not work on. This is primarily for your Kashtira, for your Sprite matchups. Decks are going to be summoning multiple times per turn just to get their plays off, right? So then you're going to be playing 3 of these, which I think is pretty awesome. You're going to be playing 3 of your Prod of Prosperities. This is fairly standard as well, this format. I'm pretty sure every deck needs a consistency boost. So you're going to be playing 3 of those. And then, of course, because we're playing kaijus, we're going to be playing 3 Kaiju Interrupted Slumber, right? We're going to have to be playing that just because. And then we're going to be playing 1 Reinforcement of the Army and 1 Call by the Grave. And that's going to round out the main deck. All right. So let's move on to the extra. All right, so we're going to be running 2 S-Force Justify. If you're not familiar with what Justify does, he is a Link 3 monster, and he acts as a negate when he's on the field. He can negate, I believe, 3 times. So it says you cannot normal summon or set monsters to a zone this card points to. So, you know, already here's another effect that kind of goes against what the deck is actually supposed to be doing, correct? So it's very strange that they do this for this specific strategy. However, let's continue. It says that you can target 1 face-up effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effect until the end of this turn. Then you can move that opponent's monster to their zone this card points to. You can only use the effect of S-Force Justify once per turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks, you can banish all monsters this card points to. So very interesting, right? Another thing, another effect, 2 effects on the same card that does not necessarily mesh well with the rest of the strategy. The whole point is to share a column, right? The whole point is to share a column with your opponent's monsters to lock down any effects that they may have. So anyway, that's pretty much it. He does act as a pretty good negate. Although he is very low on attack with 2,600 attack, very hard to get over a lot of different monsters, right? So anyway, then you're going to be running 1 Lingaribo, and Lingaribo is just going to be for those Ibly locks. If they're still out there somewhere, who knows? Then we're going to be running 1 IP Masquerena. She goes in theme with the S-Force. Just because she's featured on the trap card. We're going to be running 1 Gravity, or what is this guy called? Brute Enforcer. So we're going to be running 1 Brute Enforcer. Then because we're running IP Masquerena, we're going to be running a Nightmare package. And the Nightmare package is there just because. We can use some playing on our opponent's turn, so that's what we're going to use it for. Then we're going to be running 1 Apollosa, 1 what the heck is this guy's name? Access Code Talker. Yeah, that's right. 1 Boral Sword for the OTKs, right? And then we're going to be running 1 Underworld Goddess. And as for our Xyz, I'm pretty sure you can understand what we're going to be doing. We're going to be running 1 Constellar Pleiades, one Time Thief Redoer, as he is also in theme with the strategy. And then we're going to be running one Steel Swarm Roach. Now, we do have a Link 1 that's coming into the game, so therefore we can make some adjustments here now. You have a lot of Link 4 monsters and even a Link 5 monster, which I suggest you keep until just because you're running an IP Masquerena. But I do suggest you can cut either Boral Sword or Access Code, whichever fits your playstyle a little bit better. And then also you can probably cut down your Brute Enforcer to put in two of the Link 1s that'll help the deck once it comes out. So guys, if you enjoyed the profile, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Please click on some other videos on the channel and watch them up. I really could use it, and I will catch you guys at the next conversation. Peace out.